But it could be the closest thing to reality that I've heard in a long time. Hear and believe, oh dang, in Jesus Christ you are forgiven. Oh dang. Lord, how is that even possible? I tease her about that still, but I love it. And all of us remember because of the spontaneity of the moment and the truth of her reaction. So, experience means engaging more than one sense at a time. Oops. Wonder, awe, and mystery are hugely compelling. Hugely compelling. It's very attractive. There's an Orthodox Church in Decatur, St. Elias, Antiochian Orthodox Church, and I visit there every once in a while. And you know, they get experience because the Orthodox, there are icons everywhere, right? And we have a priest there who's very generous with the censor. Okay, it's like, okay? But for the rest of the day, you walk out, you smell wherever you go in your car, you smell the incense. You know you've been in the presence of the Lord in divine liturgy. You get that? Okay? Anyway, I was talking to him once and he said, there are a number of your people coming to us. I said, yes, priest. They are all Protestants. I said, yes, priest. Now, to be sure, we are glad that they're coming to the one true church, but we're wondering, why are they coming to us? And I said, I think it's because you do wonder, awe, and mystery really well. You know, I said, you know, we Lutherans, Presbyterians, Episcopalians, we think a lot about God. I think you folk know how to do wonder, awe, and mystery. For a lot of young adults, wonder, awe, and mystery comes best through music. There's a community a number of you have visited called Taizé in France, a Protestant community celebrating an anniversary. And the chanting that's scripturally based in Taizé, that kind of music elicits wonder, awe, and mystery. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. So, this is the Church of Jesus Christ. I'm not worried. I really am not. I'm deeply grateful for you. It's why I stay. It's why I stay even teaching. Because I think it's a tremendous privilege to be with church folk trying to do our very best to be faithful. So I was doing this research. I was in Des Moines, Iowa. And I gathered a group of young adults, most of whom we baptized and confirmed in mainline churches, the vast majority of whom are not with us still. There was a couple, and they were members of a particular church in Des Moines. And I knew this church because I'd preached there. It's a smaller membership church, about 125 members. It's mostly older adults, all white, Presbyterian. And I thought to myself, and they were the only couple among these 17 gathered in this restaurant when I was doing this focus group that were actually in one of our churches. I called them the Aberrations. So after we finished a lovely conversation in a focus group, everyone was leaving, and I asked the couple, excuse me, I'm intrigued that you're in a church. And these are 20-somethings. And they smiled at me and said, yeah, we're sort of odd. I said, good, I'm glad you know that. I said, can I ask why you're in this church? And I knew this church. And they said, do you have a moment? And I said, sure. The young woman told me this, that they both are from New Jersey, Rutgers. They both graduated from Rutgers University, fell in love when they were juniors, waited until after the senior year, got married. I didn't know this term until she told me. They were headhunted. And you know, the middle states in the country are losing population like crazy. Nebraska, the Dakotas, Iowa, etc., Missouri, Kansas. The rest of us call them the flyover states. You just fly over a bunch of states in the middle, going to either coast. But these middle states are losing population like crazy. And so there are corporations there who are headhunting. They send out people to recruit bright young adults to come live and work for them. And they both got headhunted by two different firms, and they both got placed in Des Moines, Iowa. And they thought, well, we don't know anybody in Iowa. And their parents and in-laws and brothers, sisters, sisters-in-law, brothers-in-law, friends, girlfriends, and said, they were like, you're going to Iowa? Yeah, and so they thought, well, we're young, we just got married, let's just try it. So they went. They loved outside of Des Moines. They were able to buy a house that they never could have afforded in northern New Jersey. They did, on Sundays, they did visit around to a few churches. They didn't sign the friendship pad. They're not stupid. But they went, you know, but they didn't stay anywhere. On most Sunday mornings, they were where most young adults are in the Metro D.C. area. Tomorrow morning, where are most young adults going to be? They're at home. They're in bed. They're sleeping in. They said they would get up late. They would read New York Times. They would have bagels and cream cheese, etc., and that was their slow day, because all day Saturday they were running errands and they were still catching up from work or prepping for Monday, all that kind of stuff. They told me that on one day, the young woman was doing a quick self-breast exam, had no history of breast cancer in her family whatsoever, and she felt a lump, first one, 26 years old, and she thought, well, that's odd, and she called her mom. She remembers calling her mom back in New Jersey, and her mom said, oh, sweetheart, it's got to be just a cyst because we have no history. And I know, but just to let you know, Mom. Okay, fine. She called her doctor that morning, and her doctor said, why don't you just come by? And she recalls thinking, this would never happen in New Jersey. Doctor said, just walk in, you know, and I'll just look at you. And so she did, and the doctor said to her, her physician said, I don't mean to alarm you, but from what I know, this needs to be looked at. So here are a couple specialists I want to refer you. So a little anxiety. She calls her mom and tells her, talks to her dad, and they said, sweetheart, it's got to be nothing. And they said, sure, fine. So she goes the next week and sees an oncologist, a specialist. And he says, I don't mean to alarm you, but this is a biopsy. We need to see what's going on. He said, this doesn't feel right, and I'm concerned. So she has that surgery, gets the results back, nervous, anxious. She has a stage 4 cancer. Already has metastasized into her lymph nodes. Her mother and father fly out the next day. Her mother-in-law and father-in-law fly out the next day. Her sister does, and brother-in-law. I mean, people just start coming from New Jersey like crazy. She's terrified. She said she was terrified. They make a decision after a couple of weeks what they're going to do, and they go into the hospital. And when they get into the hospital, there's that place on the form where it talks about religious community, etc. And on a whim, they put down the name of this one little church they had visited twice, just to put it down. And the hospital chaplain called the pastor of that church, and he came that afternoon, introduced himself, because he'd never met them. They had come in at the last moment, worshipped, and left before the benediction was pronounced. Okay? She said he was amazing. He came every day, prayed with them, sat with them, talked to her mom, dad, father-in-law, mother-in-law, sister, brother-in-law, girlfriends, as they came out and visited. So they had a pretty rigorous protocol set up for chemo and radiation therapy. And she said the day she was most looking forward to, the day she got to go home, she realized at that point that everybody, her folks were still working, they're still young, that they had used up all their vacation time, and she realized, you know, we were all alone, my husband and me. And she told me she remembered thinking at that point, this is why people stay near family. And she said, I remember thinking, as soon as I'm able, we're moving back to New Jersey. I'm not going to face this by myself. Husband dropped her off, made sure she was okay. She went upstairs to lie down. He had to go back to work. She was lying down upstairs, and there was a knock on the door downstairs. And she ignored it because she didn't know anybody, and she didn't think anyone was going to come. The knock was persistent, and she went downstairs and she opened the door. And there was a woman there, older woman, gray hair, glasses, and she had this brown paper bag on its side. And she said, "Hi, are you?" And she said, "Yes, I am." "Who are you?" And she said, "I'm from church." And she said, "What church?" And the woman said, "Oh," and she named the church. And she said, "That's where our pastor." "Oh, yeah, the pastor." And she goes, "Hi, I brought you a casserole. And I just baked some fresh bread. And here's a salad. And this is for you and your husband." And she said, "Oh, well, thank you. We didn't order this." And she goes, "Oh, I know." And she said, "Can I bring it in?" And she said, "Sure." And the woman said, "Do you want to sit down and talk?" And the woman said, "Well, do you feel up to it?" And she said, "Actually, I sort of would like some company." And so they sat together and they prayed together. And the woman was looking at her and looking around, and she said, "You look tired." She goes, "Yeah, I'm sort of tired. You should go upstairs and lie down." And she said, "Yeah." She said, "Are you going to leave?" And she said, "Well, honey, I don't mean to insult you, but you need to dust." And she said, "Well, yeah, I haven't been home for a while. This is my first day home." And she, "Well, honey, go upstairs. Do you mind if I clean?" And she said, "No, go ahead, clean." So the woman stayed, apparently for a couple of hours, and did deep cleaning. Husband came home, came upstairs and said, "Did you clean the house?" And she said, "No." He said, "Did you cook that in the refrigerator?" And she goes, "No, this woman came from church." "What church?" "The pastor's church." "Oh, the pastor's church. Was that for us?" "Yeah, they just made it." "How much did it cost?" "It was free. They just brought it." The next day, husband was at work. There was a different knock on the door. She opened the door slowly. There was a man there. "Hi, are you older adult gentleman?" She goes, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, good. Hey, this is a chicken dinner, and it's not finished yet, but there are instructions to finish it up, and you can't mess it up or I get into really big trouble." And she said, "Oh, okay. Do you want to come in?" And he goes, No, not really." He said, "But your screen door, it's not working very well." And she said, "I know, my husband's going to get to that." And he goes, "Yeah, young guys, they don't do this stuff very well." He said, "But I've got my tools in the car. I can see, this won't take anything." And she goes, "Well, do you mind?" And he goes, "No, just go inside, close the door, and I'll fix it." Husband comes home and says, "Did you fix the screen door?" And she goes, "No, this guy from the church." "The same church?" "Yeah, and there's a chicken dinner downstairs with instructions on how to finish it." This couple is now sitting with me in the back of this restaurant in Des Moines. They said they had a different meal from this congregation every single day for 6 months. She turned to me with tears streaming down her face, and she said, "Rodger, whether I live for 6 more months or 6 more years or 60 more years, I've told my family, all my friends, I'm never leaving this church. I'm going to die in this church." Her husband turned to me and said, "Rodger, we have frozen casseroles until Christ comes again."